I am working on another convenience meal. This time it is going to be shredded chipotle beef for tacos. So, I need to get going on my onions first because I'm going to use the same knife to cut my meat and I don't like to cross-contaminate. Now these onions are kind of big, so I might actually cut them in half this way so that my rings aren't so big. I'll figure it out. I'll cut them in half so the rings aren't as big. I need to have 1 cup of, I might have too many onions. I need 1 cup of onions rings or slices or whatever per jar. So I have 5 jars, but 2 of my jars are the 1.5 pints. So it's 3/4 of a quart. Ooh, those are really big. I may have cut some of my onions a little on the chunky side. So pretty much what I'm getting at is I will need slightly less meat and onion per jar on those ones, on the smaller jars. But it will require the same amount of processing time, so it kind of doesn't matter. Welcome back to more convenience meals. If you're new here, I'm Catherine, the Aerogarden homesteader, and today it is chipotle shredded beef for tacos. So we are going to give this one a try. I am going through and trying to find some convenience meals that I can have just in the pantry for, you know, those busy days in the summer when you just don't feel like cooking, and you know what, sometimes it's just too hot to be cooking. So I am working on onions. Now I'll probably zip through this because, I mean, I'm just cutting onions, and then I need to trim and cut my meat. So the store was having a sale on onions, and I bought a 50-pounder, which is not an unusual purchase for us. We do that frequently. But if there are any recipes you want to see that uses pretty much a ton of onions, let me know below, and I can look into it. I'm thinking of trying the, I think it's the balsamic onion jam. I have been humming and hawing and like, I want to try it, but at the same time, I'm afraid I'm not going to like it. But this might be the year that I give it a try. The other recipe I was kind of thinking of was, there's a French onion soup recipe that sounded good. So I was thinking of giving that one a try, and even though I like French onion soup, I am not in love with French onion soup. So I'm kind of torn on that, but I feel like onion soup is one of those things that you can use for other recipes. So it doesn't have to be eaten as onion soup per se. But if you know of another recipe that you would like to see, I have canned onions just on their own, and I'm telling you, I'm not a fan. But I will probably, part of the 50 pounds will go towards freeze-dried onion, just so that I have it and it's available. Because sometimes we do go through onion dry spells, especially in the summer. I don't do a lot of cooking, and so I don't buy a lot of onions. And, you know, sometimes I just want to make some salsa, and it's convenient to just throw in some dehydrated or freeze-dried onion. Okay, I am really close. These last 2 cups can be slightly scant because it's going to go in the 3/4 pint. Or 3/4 quart, I guess. It's a 1.5 pints. Okay, that might just do it. I think that'll do it. So I will save that other half onion for something else. Okay, yes, I know it looks kind of gross. It's been in the freezer for a little too long. So this is a tri-tip, and it is kind of a heart-shaped piece of meat. It is not the heart, but it is heart-shaped. So the grain kind of runs a little funny because it runs down the point as well here. This particular recipe calls for brisket. So I am not going to pull out a brisket, which is kind of expensive, when I can use something that's smaller. It's about the same price, honestly, brisket and tri-tip, but the tri-tip is a lot smaller, so you don't have that massive outlay. And which part of the brisket? It wasn't very specific. It just said brisket. So, you know, the lean, the fat, you know, I don't know. So I'm going to give this a bit of a trim. There's a little bit of silver skin here, which I don't know if that'll break down in the canning process, but I don't want to find out either. So I'm going to try to get some of this off. I am also using a chuck roast. So we have a chuck roast that has also been in the freezer a little too long. It looks a little bit better than this one, honestly, but I'm going to use that. And so that should hopefully get me a mix of lean-ish meat and fattier meat. And I will try to make sure I give each jar kind of a a little bit of each. Okay, if your cutting board keeps swirling around like this, put something under it, like a wet dishcloth or paper towel or something. It'll help it from doing that, which I didn't think to do until now my hands are dirty. Now obviously you don't have to get every little scrap of silver skin and fat and all that off, but the better job you do now, the less little grizzly bits you need to eat. If you're cutting off silver skin, don't put your knife blade down. Try to put your knife blade up, and it'll kind of cut along the bottom of the silver skin and not take off quite so much meat. It's not perfect because sometimes you will just cut the silver skin, but it sometimes helps. The other thing is if you can get under it and create like a little flap to hold on to, you can kind of keep your hands out of the way, which is always a good thing. Okay, so I might call that good enough. So it says to cut this up into 2-inch chunks. Okay, so I need approximately 1 pound of meat per jar. So I was going to do a 4-jar recipe, but I could not find a 4th wide mouth jar. So I decided I'm going to use 2 1.5 jars in place of 1 quart jar. So yes, it's slightly more, but it will also be an extra jar with a wide mouth. So I have slightly more meat than the recipe calls for, and it actually works out if I do it that way. So just do 2-inch chunks to the best of your ability. Remember, you do have to fit this through the mouth of the jar, hence the reason why I wanted to use wide mouth as well. Okay, that is that. So that was slightly more than 2 pounds of meat, and I'm going to go get the chuck roast and trim that up. Okay, so this one's got hard fat on it. It is definitely a fattier cut of meat. It is supposed to be very similar to brisket. So a lot of people call this poor man's brisket. I don't know why. It costs the same price as brisket, if not more. So maybe your area has cheaper meat than mine. Normally try to keep one hand clean, but the other hand's already dirty, so it doesn't matter. Okay, and I do have my pressure canner on with the jars in there, warming up, so they will be ready to go. Now this is a type of, I think it's a raw pack pretty much. I will be putting in, everything will be room temperature or cold-ish, and then I will be putting in hot liquid and then getting the canner started. So it is a raw pack, but you do need hot jars because you're putting hot liquid in still. Here, one of my chickens laying an egg. It's going to be a big one. Got one chicken who lays really big eggs that are double yolker, but she doesn't do it all the time. Just every once in a while she'll just lay a massive double yolker egg. Actually just went to the store and bought 50 pounds of food. It was a buy 3 get 1 free. No idea if that's a good price. It works out to like $15.75 a bag for 50 pounds. Probably did in total end up with 4 pounds of meat. So we will see how it fills out in the jars. Okay, let's get this cleaned up. Okay, let me get my jars and we can start filling. Okay, so of course I forgot to do the garlic, so I'll have to do that real quick. Probably going to need most of a head for this one. This will just dirty up another knife. Got some water on the boil, so that will be my beef stock component. I'm just going to be using some beef bouillon because I don't actually have any beef stock. I thought for sure I had some, but apparently I don't. So we're just doing it the powdered way. I think I have some better than beef or better than bouillon in the fridge somewhere. Oh, this is slow. So it is 4 cloves of garlic per jar. Just get that cut up. I am not hitting them hard enough. Okay, so these smaller ones, I'm just going to put 3 cloves in instead of the 4 because it is a smaller recipe amount. Yeah, I know it's probably tempting to throw this in whole, but for heat transfer issues, you're probably better off cutting them up. Okay, on to filling these jars again. So, a teaspoon of... This is canning or pickling salt. I think, since I am pressure canning, this is not like for preservation. It is for flavor. I put a little too much in that one, so hopefully that one won't be too salty. But if you're sensitive to salt, you could probably scale that back. And then this is Mexican oregano. It calls for a teaspoon of oregano. It's not being specific, but you're probably going to want to get the Mexican stuff because it does taste a little different. And it calls for chipotle, but I'm going to put in smoked paprika and cumin because I am not, like, I did the one of the other recipes that calls for chipotle, and it was a little overwhelming. So put in about half a teaspoon of smoked paprika and half a teaspoon of ground cumin. This is freshly ground, so it's going to be pretty potent. And calls for a quarter of a cup of cilantro. I'm just going to put in this powdered stuff because I don't have any cilantro. I feel like I was completely unprepared to make this recipe today, but I am just plowing ahead. Then I am putting in a teaspoon. You know, I'm going to see if I can find that better than beef bouillon. Okay, I found it. I'm going to put in, to get a better spoon. Okay, I need at least a teaspoon because I'm sure this will take at least a cup of liquid. Then always add a tiny bit more if it takes more than a cup of liquid. I'm going to put in a small amount of liquid just to help with the air bubbles. Plus it'll help dissolve that bouillon. Okay, let's get our meat in. Oh, it smells good already. Okay, the meat should take up about half of the, you know, I probably don't need 4 or 5 jars. I bet you I can do it in 4. Which is a bit of a shame to put all those ingredients in, but I still have to put in a cup of onion because it should be half full of meat. So take that into account when you're filling it up. Half full of meat, and then, yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go. 3. That was weird. Put the onion in. Okay, well I definitely cut up too much onion at this point, so I need 1 cup of onion in each. And we top it off with water. Check for bubbles. Might need a little more beef bouillon in there. Okay, the onions will shrink down a little bit, so will the meat, but you definitely want to make sure your liquid is at the 1-inch mark. Get this cleaned up and in the canner. So this will run for an hour and a half, and then we will have a convenience meal on the shelf for later. Pulling together this beef taco mix was actually really easy. I drained off the extra juice and I put it in a pan and just basically heated it up. But this was a really nice convenience meal that I would certainly do again. I felt like the seasonings were on point, and I felt like that would work with chicken as well. I hope you found this video useful. This has been a really nice, fun journey to go on to sort of discover new convenience meals for the pantry. Let me know if you try any of these recipes. I'm curious to see how you like them and if they're going to be a staple in your family. I'll have some recipes up at the end that you might also enjoy, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.